You're watching News 24 Live and I'm Jerusha Sukhtheorath. Now, if you're a regular News 24 Live viewer, you'll know that this year alone we've reported on multiple incidents of bullying in school, often caught on camera or CCTV footage. And a recent report from the Saartjie Baartman Centre for Women and Children here in the Western Cape suggests that child-on-child violence is on the increase. We've got an expert in the studio who's going to talk to us about the issue, but first, let's go to News 24 Live producer Noxolo Mafu. She's going to take us through some reactions on social media.
Thank you, Jerusha. There have been a lot of comments regarding the recent videos that have gone viral on the internet regarding bullying. We've got the first comment from Phil Galpin, who says, "This is not bullying. This was an assault. Finish and cloud. School was taken the easiest option, so the girls can now go to another school, repeat their behavior, knowing they will get away with it again." We've also got more comments from Gcina Makoba, who says, "How many of this type of abuses is hidden in our schools? This shows the negligence in South African schools when it comes to children being educated about their rights and that bullying is an offense. Where was the matron at this time? Isn't the school supposed to emphasize that things like these are meant to be reported?"
Christina Nomdu, thank you so much for joining us today. Won't you kick us off by giving us an explanation of, or rather introducing, the organization that you represent?
Good day. This organization is known as Resources Aimed at the Prevention of Child Abuse and Neglect. And just last year we celebrated 25 years of existence, which is quite a landmark achievement for any organization in the South African context. The organization is a child rights organization, but we do focus on violence against children as our primary focus.
Now, what we're speaking about today is almost unique in the sense that the violence we're seeing is usually child-on-child violence. And let's talk a little bit about that first tweet. Somebody saying this isn't bullying. We shouldn't necessarily be calling it that. It's assault.
Okay, I just want to take us maybe a step back and to say that one understands that there are visceral reactions when the public witnesses or hears about incidents of violence. But violence is a daily occurrence for children in South Africa. And I worry when we start talking about vilifying children as being the main perpetrators of violence on other children. In fact, in our practice, we find that adults are the main perpetrators of violence against children. And so we need to restore that balance. So I think also when children are involved in incidents with each other, we need to start questioning the fundamentals in our society in relation to what kind of modeling behavior are children basing their own behavior on. What are the kind of support systems that they have at home or at schools to be able to guide positive behavior. And so I think I have a little bit of a different viewpoint around the incidents of violence.
Now, of course, in the age of social media and camera phones, many of these incidents have been filmed and placed online, and I suppose it's almost very sensational to be sharing videos of two children fighting. Does this exacerbate the situation, in your opinion? Before the camera started rolling, you mentioned that you feel very strongly about the way these videos are portrayed in the media.
Yeah, I think the media is quite irresponsible in the portrayal of incidents. I think the ethics the media has in relation to actually breaching the privacy and confidentiality of victims and children who are involved in this incident is really irresponsible. I like the fact that technology is allowing us to engage closer with our children so that we are able to see some of the things that they're struggling with, and it creates for us an opportunity for intervention, for support, and that's how it should be seen. We always view children, no matter on which side they are, as children in need of care and protection. Children who are involved in incidents of violence, never mind what side of the line they're on, are children in need of care and protection.
And often, when these videos are placed online, instead of it being a let's watch this video to identify who the children are and how we can help them, it's a share on your Facebook feed to say, look at this crazy thing that's happened in a school. And that's the type of thinking that's problematic to all South Africans.
And I think that also it takes us away from a strategic approach to development. So when people say to me there's an increase of child on child, I worry about the vilification of children and the life phase children and adolescents. Adolescents are also vilified by society. But I also wonder about the rigor of those statements. So on what basis are you saying there's an increase? I mean, there are good organizations, academic and other organizations that provide us with longitudinal studies, rigorous methods of studying an increase or decrease in a trend in violence. But when we see a couple of incidents that are profiled in the media several days, maybe consecutive days, and this gives the impression then that there's an epidemic going on, something is on the rise, you know. I think we need to step away from that reactive engagement with development challenges in our society. It's not helpful.
I want you to please just expand on the idea that both parties involved in these incidents are children in need of protection and support. Now, often when we read the comment sections or when people are responding to these types of videos, the child who is the perpetrator in the incident is often called somebody who's in need of punishment, somebody who needs to be removed from the school environment, and somebody who should either be charged criminally or have all sorts of legal arguments brought up against this child, essentially. But what is the way to deal with this then?
I think it's a serious indictment on the society that we want to victimize children by making them criminally responsible. Perhaps there should be steps that assess the situation and the context in which the violence has occurred. Why have children behaved in a certain way, and what was the responsibility of the adults in whose care they were placed, either at schools or boarding schools? What was the responsibility of the adults? Where is this behavior emanating from? I think that in our practice in communities in Cape Town and wider than Cape Town, we have found that it's really an ecological problem. Violence in South Africa is an ecological problem. We have violence everywhere. We see violence in our societies. Children witness and are part of violence in their homes. Children are experiencing violence in schools. 50% of children still report corporal punishment as a form of discipline in schools. And so if we as adults keep sending that message that violence is acceptable and normative and part of our reality, what gives us then the right to choose the moral high ground and say, now that these incidents of children being involved in violence, that's a huge problem for us. We should focus on the children because they clearly are the problem. I'm sorry, the indictment is on society and the adults in society. It's up to us to create that normal society of well-being and a society free of harm and violence for our children. But we're not doing that.
That's certainly something to think about. Now, what do you say to the person who says, but Christina, that was my child in that video, who was bullied, who was hurt? Are you diminishing the responsibility of the subject who really inflicted that pain and that hurt on my child? What do you say to those concerned parents?
No, I empathize with them absolutely. No child should experience violence. No child should experience violence. And so one needs to work with that family and all the other families involved in incidents to enable us to supply the best source of support. And I think that it's unfortunate that all our children do live and experience violence on a daily basis.